Lately, a flood of TikTok videos from China show factories making workers do push-ups just to get hired. Some workers say it feels humiliating, like they're being put in their place before they even start. Others argue it's for their own good, claiming that grueling 10-plus hour shifts could lead to sudden death if they're not fit enough. These workers came to work not to enlist in the military, yet in many Chinese factories they're forced to line up and do push-ups before their shift even begins. You really think this is about fitness? Don't kid yourself. This is pure power play. Management isn't testing their endurance, they're sending a message. We're in charge. You obey. This isn't a warm-up. It's a psychological drill designed to break workers down and strip them of their dignity. Now picture this. A middle-aged migrant worker, a man in his 40s or 50s, leaving his hometown just to feed his family, only to be forced onto the ground at the factory gates, doing push-ups like a cadet in boot camp, humiliated in front of everyone. Is this about improving efficiency, or is it a thinly veiled form of psychological control? The worst part? They don't get a choice. Refuse and you could lose your job. In these factories, obedience matters more than skill, and humiliation is more common than actual labor. But here's what's truly disturbing. This practice is now normal. Some people don't even question it anymore. They just shrug it off as no big deal, and that's the real nightmare. When absurdity becomes routine, society itself grows cold and twisted. Even if you swallow your pride, grit your teeth, and push through the humiliating entrance ritual, do you really think things will get any better? Think again. This is just the start of the nightmare.
I am a citizen of the People's Republic of China, and I strongly oppose the grueling 12-hour, two-shift system in Jiangsu's factories. For the past 6 months, I've been tightening screws in a Suzhou factory, and according to Article 36 of China's labor law, no worker should be forced to work more than 8 hours a day, with a weekly average not exceeding 44 hours, and at least one guaranteed day off. Yet, here we are, trapped in endless 12-hour shifts. I refuse to accept this. I demand that by 2025, Suzhou factories respect the law and implement a proper 8-hour workday.
On February 8th this year, a factory worker in Jiangsu posted a video on China's TikTok holding up his ID in protest against the brutal 12-hour two-shift system. The result? His video vanished, his profile picture disappeared, and his account was silenced, banned from even following others. Before long, waves of Chinese workers started speaking out on social media, exposing their brutal schedules.
I'm speaking out under my real name. I demand that the government put an end to the 12-hour two-shift system. It's simply unbearable. The day shift is hard enough, but 12 hours on a night shift, that's inhuman. It wrecks your body. No matter how much money you make, it won't even be enough to cover the hospital bills later. If you're working night shifts, or you've ever done one, share this video. Let more people see the truth.
我是中华人民共和国公民。
我是中华人民共和国居民。
我以中华人民共和国公民的身份向政府呼吁。
12-hour shifts, no days off, all year round. Think about that. 12 hours a day, switching between day and night shifts, factories running 24/7. But what about the workers? They barely get a second to breathe, trapped in an endless cycle of exhaustion. This isn't a job, it's human exploitation, plain and simple. 12-hour shifts don't just violate the globally accepted 8-hour workday, they strip workers of even the most basic human need, rest. With only enough time to eat and sleep, personal life is non-existent. Family, forget about it. Leisure, a luxury they can't afford. Even survival feels like a struggle. At this point, they're not employees. They're machines, worn down day after day until there's nothing left. Let's take a closer look at what life is really like on a factory assembly line. In an electronics plant in Shenzhen, the low hum of the punch clock signals the start of another grueling day. But before the real work even begins, workers are lined up at the workshop door to chant a corporate mantra. This kind of rigid bureaucratic management is everywhere, yet the lofty slogans about growth and a beautiful life couldn't feel more disconnected from the reality on the assembly line. Young workers stand in rows, performing the same mind-numbing tasks over and over. The work itself isn't hard, it just can't stop. If the line backs up, production slows, and their wages take a hit. The factory floor is always bright, ceiling lights reflecting off the polished floor until day and night blur together. Some workers lose all sense of time, forgetting they're even working overtime. At this phone factory, any work before 9 p.m., that's free labor. The endless mechanical grind of the 997 schedule wears down their minds, leaving them numb. Sometimes during brief breaks, they complain about the unfairness of it all. But the only response is the deafening roar of machines. For these young migrants who left the countryside for the city, life is nothing more than the narrow path between their dorm and the workshop. Their days are spent in repetitive, exhausting labor, work that means nothing compared to the company's soaring profits. At night, they line up for security checks, just in case someone tries to pocket a phone part, then change out of their uniforms and squeeze into their cramped dorms. Another grueling day over. On her first day at the factory, this young college student was full of excitement, chatting and laughing with her co-workers. But it didn't take long for reality to set in. Within days, frustration kicked in. The endless overtime was too much. Small conflicts started brewing as the crushing workload and sheer exhaustion took their toll. Every shift at her station felt like an eternity, and staying late had become routine. She even said she wished she were a machine. At least then, she wouldn't feel this drained. By day 12, she couldn't take it anymore. She completely broke down. I feel overwhelmed with panic and fear. I can barely get a word out. It's like I'm completely trapped.
Another night working till 9:30 p.m. This is brutal. Factory life is just unbearable. We work 12, sometimes even 14 hours a day. Factories in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai, most of them run on a piece rate system. No base salary. That means we're grinding away until 10, sometimes 11 at night, just to make ends meet. The more you work, the more you earn, so we push ourselves non-stop. It's exhausting. It's frustrating. Every morning, we barely have time to gulp down breakfast before heading straight to work, and then we're stuck there until 10 p.m. The day shift, manageable, but the night shift, a complete nightmare. You see it in people's faces, the exhaustion, the mental burnout. Sometimes I don't even know what to say. Factories can drain the life out of you. At the very least, they should give workers proper rest, some breathing room, a little freedom. Instead, we're locked inside all day, suffocating, our minds going numb until we stop thinking altogether. This is the reality. Frontline workers get no respect. I just hope I live long enough to see that change. The assembly line is brutal. It never stops from morning till afternoon, and I'm completely wrecked. My hands are so exhausted they're twitching, and if I break apart, I have to pay for it. The production line just doesn't stop. We get a so-called break at noon, 10 minutes, but we have to be back at our stations 2 minutes early. I used to work at a factory in Changsha, where I had to stand all day, never sitting down once. But honestly, this is even worse. At least over there, we got a break after 300 units. Here, you're stuck in your seat from morning till night, no stopping, no breathing room. I haven't had a single moment to rest all day. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up.
Let me take you through my daily routine. Ever since I started working at the factory, it's been non-stop, 12-hour shifts every single day. I wake up at 7 a.m. to wash up, have breakfast at 7:30, and by 8 a.m., I'm at my station. Lunch, a quick 30 minutes at 1 o'clock, then back to work at 1:30. Another short break at 5:30, then it's back to work from 6 p.m. all the way until 10 p.m. By the time I'm done, my entire body aches. My arms and legs feel like they're giving out. I take a shower, brush my teeth, and by 11 o'clock, I'm in bed. I have to set multiple alarms just to make sure I wake up on time. I work at the factory, I live at the factory, I have no personal life, barely see my family. Every single minute is accounted for. It's either work or sleep. That's it. In these factories, workers are treated like machines, forced to repeat the same mind-numbing tasks non-stop. There is no real life. It's either work or sleep, and even meals are on the clock. No time for family, no time to rest. Even when they're sick, they're too afraid to take a day off, because if they stop, they risk being replaced. This entire system is built on relentless exploitation, pushing workers past their physical limits without a second thought.
哎呀，刚刚休息了一下，现在缓过来了。
I just took a break, and I'm still sitting on the floor. I'm completely drained. My face is turning blue from exhaustion. Work keeps getting worse. The more I stay, the more I get pushed around. By the time I clock out, I feel like a wreck. My legs are like jelly. And my boss? He's always targeting me. I worked all day without a single break, not even a minute to use the restroom. Tried talking to him, but what did he say? That I wasn't working hard enough. That some products weren't up to standard. This is straight up abuse. And today, I was already at my limit, but my boss kept watching me, hovering over my shoulder. So I asked him, "What are you staring at? Haven't I been working all day?" And you know what he said? "Look at you, got an attitude now? You even made a faulty product. Have some shame." I fired back. "Why are you acting so arrogant?" And he just smirked and said, "What? You want to fight?"
On the assembly line, there's no slowing down. Fall behind for even a second, and management is on you, yelling, docking your pay, or worse, firing you on the spot. Their lives are stuck in an endless loop. Work, eat, sleep, repeat, over and over, until there's nothing left to give. The factory isn't just stealing their time, it's draining the life out of them.
说来说去，工资就这么低。
At the end of the day, the wages are still miserably low. Work from 18 to 45, and once you're older, the factory will find any excuse to kick you out. So, what happens when you're 45 or 55? You end up as a security guard in a mall, making 2,000 yuan a month, just watching the door. That's the reality. This society is brutal. Factory bosses pay just enough to keep you from starving, and that's all they care about. 1 month I work the day shift, the next, the night shift. And you have no idea how exhausting the night shift is. You're half dead by 3 or 4 a.m., working like a dog every single night. I got sick last year from working so many nights. It was just too much. But that's life in a factory. If you don't have connections or a background, making it to retirement is nearly impossible. You're just a worker, a replaceable cog in the machine. And once you're no longer useful, you're thrown away.
12-hour shifts at a relentless pace, combined with grueling day and night rotations, take a devastating toll on workers' health. Many of them work in high-risk industries like manufacturing and construction, where chronic exhaustion only increases workplace accidents, all for profit. The bosses push workers to their absolute limit, but the moment their bodies give out, there's always someone new to take their place. This isn't just about corporate greed. It's about a society that exploits labor without mercy. In a just society, work should have reasonable hours, fair pay, and at least basic dignity. But in these factories, a worker's life is nothing more than another part on the assembly line, used up and discarded. Look at this young factory worker. Her face pale, deep dark circles under her eyes, every line etched with exhaustion and numbness. Her gaze is empty, lifeless. Her video has gone viral, and people can't look away because what they see isn't just a tired worker. It's a shell, a body drained of its soul by the relentless grind of the assembly line. Her exhaustion isn't just physical, it's the collapse of a spirit, the weight of hopelessness. This is the reality. In countless factories across China, workers aren't treated like people, they're treated like machines. They have to keep going. They can't complain about exhaustion. They can't get sick. They can't stop, because stopping means being replaced. And the capitalists? They sit in their offices, crunching numbers, calculating assembly line efficiency, figuring out how much longer they can squeeze every last drop out of their workers. They never ask if these people can still hold on. They don't care. How long can this system last? As long as workers can still stand, they'll keep being exploited. This is a society that has turned its lowest laborers into soulless husks, stripped of dignity, stripped of life. Why does this keep happening? Because the laws are weak, oversight is non-existent, and capital is insatiable. China's labor laws are clear, no more than 8 hours a day, at least 1 day off per week. But in reality, companies and management twist the rules, bend them, or just ignore them altogether. And when workers dare to speak up, when they expose their suffering under their real names, what happens? Their videos disappear, their posts get banned, the companies untouched, as if none of it ever happened. Why do capitalists treat national laws like worthless scraps of paper and never face consequences? Why do they burn through workers' lives like fuel, pushing for profit with no limits? So stop asking, why don't workers fight back? It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't. When survival itself is a luxury, who dares to dream of fairness? Some in China claim that these workers are stuck in dirty, grueling jobs because they didn't study hard enough in school, that they deserve to be left behind by society. But this idea isn't just cold-blooded, it's absurd. First, education in China's vast rural areas is deeply unequal, and college tuition is sky-high. Not everyone can afford higher education. But let's set that aside for a moment. Say someone works hard, gets into college and lands a job. Do they really escape exploitation? The truth is, the so-called decent office jobs that ordinary people dream of aren't as glamorous as they seem. Instead, they walk straight into another kind of sweatshop, the 996 system. What is 996? It's the brutal work schedule common in many Chinese companies, starting at 9 a.m., finishing at 9 p.m., 6 days a week. On the surface, it's a prestigious white-collar career. In reality, just another way to burn through your health and your life. But the most outrageous part isn't 996 itself, it's how people glorify it, repackaging exploitation as hard work culture, and the most infamous example, Jack Ma's so-called wisdom. 996 is the biggest blessing for employees. A blessing? For who? For the capitalists, of course. Employees grind away in endless overtime, company profits skyrocket, and shareholders cash in big. But for the average worker, it's nothing but slow, drawn-out torture.
8小时工作制已经100年。
The 8-hour workday has been in place for a century, the 2-day weekend for 27 years, and yet we're still drowning in work. Companies now push 996 as a badge of dedication. But aside from Communist Party officials, how many companies actually enforce weekends off? How many truly respect workers by improving rest policies step by step? Instead, the ones who pay you keep drilling this into your head. Hard work is a virtue. Seeking enjoyment, that's the sin of the weak. Time is money. Efficiency is life. Sounds inspiring, doesn't it? Overtime rolls off the boss's tongue like it's the most natural thing in the world. Working non-stop all year has become a model of positive energy, making the company your home, turning overtime into your life's work. I call on the state to enforce the 8-hour workday.
房地产行业加班停休是再常态化不过。
I work in real estate, no days off, overtime until 10 p.m. every single day. In this industry, it's not just common, it's expected. When the clock hits the end of the workday, no one moves. We all just wait, because no one leaves until after 10 p.m., when the signal finally comes.
为什么现在找一份8小时双休的工作会这么的困难呢？
Why is it so hard to find a job with an 8-hour workday and 2-day weekends? We all know the law. No more than 8 hours a day, no more than 44 hours a week, and weekends off. So why are more and more companies ignoring these rules? 996 is everywhere now. In fact, some people even see 996 as a luxury. Is it because of the ruthless competition across industries? Or is it simply that too many bosses only care about their own profits, squeezing every last bit of value out of their workers? People are more exhausted than ever. One person does the work of many, driving the rat race to new extremes. We demand strict enforcement of the 8-hour workday. Give us back our time.
工作996，生活 ICU。
Work 996, end up in the ICU.
I work in the internet industry, so I know firsthand how brutal 996 really is, what it does to both body and mind. A 72-hour work week? It's beyond extreme, and programmers suffer the most. We start insanely early. We finish unbearably late. Work and life blur into one. No time for anything else, not even dating. Many fall sick. Some don't make it. At my company, a co-worker developed leukemia from the relentless workload, like a death sentence. His family couldn't even afford treatment. And just last year, another colleague, a programmer, collapsed and died from overwork. He was barely in his 30s. The reality? Sudden death rates in this field are terrifyingly high.
Under 996, white-collar workers are drained, body and mind, sleepless, health in free fall. Some don't even make it. Work hours keep stretching longer, but wages, they stay the same. Because companies know they can always replace you. Fire one, hire another. There's always someone desperate enough to take the job. Factory workers, 12-hour shifts, rotating day and night. Office workers, 996, grinding away. Different setting, same exploitation. They're all treated like machines. Just enough time to eat, just enough time to sleep, then thrown right back into the fight. A society where workers don't even get a moment to breathe. That's not a society anymore. That's just capital's playground. 996 is illegal, but tell me, what company has ever been punished for it? To capitalists, a worker's life isn't even a cost worth calculating. This isn't just an economic issue. It's a sickness, a disease that infects the entire system. It's not just one industry being crushed. It's the entire working class. And the ones at the top, they mask their greed with cheap lies, calling it hard work and blessing.
Take a look at the sanitation workers in Shenzhen. They have to wear tracking devices on their hands, because what if they slack off? What if they dare to sit down for a break? The surveillance is beyond strict. This is what they call humanized management in Shenzhen. This is how they treat the people who keep their city clean.
Shenzhen calls itself modern. It boasts about humanized management. And yet, its sanitation workers are forced to wear tracking devices to stop them from slacking off, to make sure they don't even take a break. Tell me, what part of that is humane? Sanitation workers already endure brutal conditions, scorching heat, freezing cold, pouring rain. They deserve dignity, they deserve fair treatment, and yet we see government offices filled with inefficiency, but do they wear trackers? Of course not. Why is strict surveillance only for low-income workers, while the powerful and the rich get a free pass? Factory workers wear wristbands to track their speed. Sanitation workers wear tracking watches. This isn't management, it's control. It's selective surveillance, targeting only society's lowest earners. Real management is built on trust and respect, not high-tech electronic shackles.